I feel very guilty for not having posted here on this YouTube channel for quite a while. And guilt is exactly what we're going to talk about. This universal human emotion that, like most other emotions, cuts both ways. Nobody wants to live without guilt, but too much guilt is absolutely horrendous for us. Before we start this talk, let me welcome you back to Virtual Wellbeing. And as you know, my name is Lars Hansen. I'm a psychiatrist, and I'm deeply dedicated to post some videos for you that will hopefully improve your quality of life, at least a little bit. So today we're going to talk about guilt, and let's try to start to define what guilt is. Guilt is, of course, a very close cousin of shame. And guilt has more to do with I've done something wrong, while shame is I am a bad person, generally speaking. But it's difficult when you read the literature. It is difficult to disentangle guilt from shame. But guilt is usually the act. Shame is the whole person that's not good. When preparing for this video, I became acutely aware of what a big role guilt plays in my own life. I'm actually haunted by guilt, by silly things, or less silly things that I've done or said or not done or said. Unanswered phone calls, unanswered emails, all those kind of things. And most of the guilt processing happens on a semi-conscious level. And what we are hopefully going to do today is that we're going to drag the guilt processing out of that murky area into the cold light of day, so we can hopefully deal with it a little bit better. I think most people know what a hugely influential emotion guilt is. The Roman philosopher Seneca said that every guilty person is his own hangman, and how true it is. Guilt actually plays a really important role in mental illnesses such as depression, anxiety, and suicide. Self-harm too, of course. Where does it come from? So the origin of guilt is clearly evolutionary, and we all have an innate capacity for feeling guilt, or unless we are psychopaths, then that may be a very different matter. But in evolution installed in us an antisocial smoke detector to ensure that we could retain our membership of that all-important group. Up until the last couple of 100 years, every one of us belonged to small groups, and if we were not part of that group, we would have been toast. So it felt so crucial to be a member of that group, and it still does, because even though that times have changed, we are essentially the same as we've been for thousands of years. So an example would be if Lars Hansen 10,000 years ago out in nature, belonging to a small group, had eaten other people's food during the night. It would probably have been nice, but I would have put myself in grave danger of being beaten up by the big leader of the group, or perhaps even more dramatically, having been banned from the group, shunned from the group, so I would have to deal with life on my own, and that wouldn't have gone well. You would have died without a group at the time. And as society and religions developed, things became more systematized. And for example, our religion here in Northern Europe, Christianity, and especially Protestantism, it made guilt into an Olympian sport, really. But guilt has always been a massively effective tool for crowd control. If you could make people feel guilty, they would be less likely to do things that leaders didn't want them to do. So guilt has always been with us historically, but it has changed. And the latest installment in this change, that is of course the social media. And they have really spun what you can do to guilt. We talked about shame and guilt, and shame probably needs some kind of audience to be really powerful. And what more powerful medium than these social media for being publicly humiliated? And you get humiliated if you transgress whatever the self-appointed mob judges to be right or wrong now. And that changes, if not from day to day, at least from week to week. If you look back 40 years, the mob would have thought something very different to what they think now. Just think about the way that we are looking at women, homosexuals, transgender people. It's changed hugely over these last decades. So guilt is installed in us from evolution, from culture and upbringing, and from ourselves. And the last bit is actually really important, because it means if it is in ourselves, at least to some degree, we can do something about it and change it. What cannot be discussed is that the consequences of guilt are absolutely horrendous. It makes us feel miserable. It separates ourselves from others. And it is, as mentioned, a part of almost any mental illness you can come to think of. Psychosis, depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. So we will do a lot to try to avoid guilt. And hence we have this incredible stream of virtue signaling, not just on social media, but also in interpersonal relationships. People are desperate to showcase how good they are, that they are giving money to charity, that they are taking in Ukrainian refugees, they are positive about immigration, about transgender people, about homosexuals. It feels as if there is a flood of virtue signaling, and that can actually disturb and distort human connections. But it does hurt to feel guilty, and guilt is truly to the soul what pain is to the body. So what can we do about it? Usually I have some tips, but today I only have one tip, and it's pretty straightforward. Before we get to that, let me just emphasize that we don't want to dismiss guilt. We would end up like psychopaths. But clearly, guilt plays a disproportionate role in many people's lives. The great actor Anthony Hopkins says about guilt, "Guilt is a thief of life, and no amount of guilt can change the past." I partly agree with him, but one of the myths of psychology and psychiatry is that the past is a kind of puppeteer that can control us. The past is clearly very important, but we also have a say in it. And therefore the tip is to revise things that you feel guilty about and put those events into 3 distinct categories. True guilt, what I really do feel I've done wrong. Even in the cold light of day now, I still think that that was wrong. And this is the most difficult of the columns, because it takes courage to face up to it and stare those events, that guilt, right in the eye. Because guilt is painful, but it's also a guide, and it can change how we look at these things and change how we will behave in the future. So that was true guilt. Then there's partly true guilt. And partly true guilt is things that I was partly responsible for, but not completely. So that could be Lars Hansen not having called a patient, even though that I promised to do that. But the reason was I was busy with other patients. So it doesn't feel good, but there was some kind of explanation. And then the last column, that is false guilt. Things that we blamed ourselves for no good reason at all. And that's so useful to look into that too. It really is. And when you revise your past, you will often see that the column of false guilt fills up relatively fast. Of course, it may be because we want to acquit ourselves and say, oh no, I did nothing wrong. But most people have a good sense of when they have done something right or wrong. So that's the tip in all its simplicity, to revise the past, divide into true, partially true and false guilt. So in summary, guilt is a very, very powerful human emotion. We can't live without it. We need it in order not to become psychopaths, but it plays a disproportionate role in many people's lives. And we can actually revise the past. We are not just victims of the past, but we can revise it and use guilt as a guide and look guilt straight in the eye when we get to true guilt, partially true guilt and false guilt. So with that, I hope that you live not guilt-free life, but guilt-managed lives. Thank you for listening and looking forward to seeing you next time.